Hello, my name is Olurotimi Osha. I like to talk about American presidents, but today I'm not going to be discussing American presidents. I'm going to just uh, I'm going to be waxing philosophical today, or call it waxing biblical, because today is Sunday. Today is February the 15th, 2026, and I was in church today. The sermon was very interesting, and the sermon was one of the Bible verses, narratives that was discussed by the pastor today. I've actually done a video, not on, you won't find it on my YouTube, you'll find it on my Facebook page. I did it a couple of years ago, after, this incident started. That's the my travails when I was kidnapped under color of law and violated in my home. So I drew an analogy, a parallel from the Bible, and I narrated the story of Naboth. Naboth was a uh, an an Israelite who had a vineyard, an ancestral vineyard, and the king of Israel wanted it. The king of Israel was Ahab, right? It was a detestable king of Israel. Of course, his people recollect his wife was, uh, her name is synonymous with evil, right? Evil and vice. That's Jezebel. His wife was Jezebel, and they both, Jezebel and Ahab, schemed to get uh, Naboth killed so that the king could seize his vineyard, because Naboth had refused to give up his vineyard based on principle that it belonged to his ancestors. His family identified with that vineyard. And so the plot of Jezebel was she gathered a number of eminent officials, and they planned how they were going to falsely accuse Naboth of blasphemy, even though he was innocent. They falsely accused him of blasphemy. They condemned him, stoned him to death. So I had done a video and discussed, this story. So it was interesting that my pastor discussed this story today, and it just reminded me. I'm an innocent man who's been falsely accused in the state of Maryland. I'm somebody who, I was raised to value my reputation because my family has a great reputation. That's my father had a great reputation. He's late now. And so I was trained to value that reputation and my family's name, apart from the fact that I'm a Christian, right? And the church I go to, we're trained to have good character and morals and scruples. And but I've been falsely accused and I've had no trial, right? I've been defamed by the state of Maryland. And the people involved are corrupt judges like Judge James Bonifant, who's been defaming me in his courts. He's locked me up for 15 months. He's committed me wrongfully, involuntarily committed me, even sending me to a psychiatric hospital, right? Doing a false incompetency to stand trial orders that were fraudulent, right? Even Maryland state psychiatrists have told him, no, I do not have a mental illness. My mother, my family, my aunt was a psychiatrist. Everybody's told him, I don't have a mental illness. He denied me of my agency. I have agency, my autonomy protected by the First Amendment, in which I can say, no, I don't have a mental illness. You've come to my home. The police came to my home without an arrest warrant and charged me with a crime I never committed, right? Based on a false accusation by a man who was pretending, who impersonated himself like he's my uncle, Jide Iwarere. He's a false prophet. He's a deacon at a church called Forcey Memorial. So you see, this story of Naboth and Ahab and Jezebel, it packs a lot because, there were these fraudulent officials, right? They were eminent people, and they knew there was an innocent man that they were using the laws to condemn. Just like this Jide Iwarere, he's prominent. I guess he's nobody in Nigeria. where he left. Nobody knows him. He's nobody. He's not my uncle. He's and I guess he's trying to associate with my father, right? My father was a bank chairman, right? The chairman, managing director of what was the largest industrial development bank in Africa. It's probably still is. It's called Bank of Industry now. It was called Nigerian Industrial Development Bank then. And so my father was a man of, he had a good character, good reputation, and I'm his son, so I live with that good character and good reputation. And I've demonstrated this in my life. But this man, Jide Iwarere, I guess he's in Montgomery County, goes to this church called Forcey Memorial, where he's a deacon, and I suppose that's what they teach their pastors to do, right? To tell lies, to commit perjury, right? Like Jide Iwarere has done. Jide Iwarere has committed perjury, he's lied, he's maliciously. My mother's gone to court over it in Nigeria. And so I've been falsely accused and I was almost killed. And so that story of neighbor, it reminds me of standing by your principles and character, even until to death, right? Unto death. God ended up cursing Ahab and Jezebel. Jezebel was eaten by dogs. She died a terrible death, even though she was a queen of Egypt, of Israel, right? And I'm also reminded of the story of Joseph, right? What I'm experiencing, what I've been experiencing wrongfully in the state of Maryland, which has stolen 3 years of my life, filed false charges against me. I'm an innocent man, respectable man, right? A person who has dignity and character. The state of Maryland, using its racist, corrupt law enforcement and its corrupt, racist judges and its corrupt, racist state attorney, John McCarthy, they came, raided me, falsely imprisoned me in my home, spread disinformation about me, and then defamed me, filed false charges against me for 3 years, robbed me on the color of law, and they've denied me, they've denied me my ability to have, denied me trial. They've violated my rights to a speedy trial. That's the Sixth Amendment, right? And this all happened on May 16, 2023, on the eve, just when I had been told I would be starting a new position as a director. Everything was going well for me. And I had told this guy, Jide Iwarere, how I had just interviewed for a position as director of financial crimes, and they were discussing $250,000 base salary with me. And, even after I was locked up and I came out, I still got a position, new position, subject matter expert. That was an excellent position. This corrupt judge, James Bonifant, said he wanted me to lose my job in the federal government, and he placed me under false arrest, placed a GPS on me, and I lost the job. But that's no big deal. The world belongs to God, and its richness, its fullness thereof, right? The world belongs to God, and I'm a Christian, and I learned to study the Bible since I was a child. I learned to have hope, to have my faith in God, that no man can do anything to me, because everybody is still subject to the power and authority of the Almighty God. The only being that I learned to fear was the Almighty God, not human beings, right? I can't be intimidated. I can't be harassed by a government official in Montgomery County, not an American government official, not the president of the United States can intimidate me. Nobody, because what? Everybody's in God's hands. One day everybody's going to die. The maker of the whole universe is going to call everybody else. So that's everybody, and that's the reason I can never fear a human being. I can never be intimidated by a human being, right? I only fear God, the one who gave me life, the one who can take it at any day. On the day the police came to my home, the racist cop, Jeffrey Ray, he admitted, he said he wanted to kill me, right, with his Glock. He's the one who, it turns out, shot me. See, these are stitches, these are scars from stitches where he had shot me in the head with a taser dart. So he tased me. He was trying to use his Glock to kill me. Instead, he used his taser dart. So I was talking about the issue of the promising job that I had just received, and that I told this Jide Iwarere, the lunatic guy who committed perjury and filed a false emergency evaluation petition, which Nobody has done anything. The state of Maryland has not charged him with felony. They've not reopened the case that, well, this guy abused an emergency evaluation petition. They haven't done that because, as he said, he did it in conspiracy with Montgomery County Police, with state officials. State officials, the police suborned Jide Iwarere to fabricate an emergency evaluation petition because they wanted to obstruct justice in ongoing federal government investigations I had reported. I had reported fraud and misconduct of somebody from Montgomery County, Jamie A. Simon, one of them, right, born and raised just like George James Bonifant. And so this was one of the things they were trying to obstruct. They were trying to obstruct complaints that I'd filed with the federal government. And so they suborned Jide Iwarere to commit perjury on an emergency evaluation petition. And of course, they violated several of my constitutional rights. One, that's 18 USC, deprivation of rights, 18 USC Section 241 and Section 242. They violated 18 USC 1801, 18 USC Section 1801, that's unlawful voyeurism, video voyeurism, because they removed me naked from my apartment, dumped me in a hospital, in a suburban hospital, where they were video recording me, right? And I guess the officers who did that and took pictures, naked pictures of me, they have to register sex offenders, right? Kidnapping under color of law, 18 USC Section 1201, right? Conspiracy, 18 USC Section 371, and 18 USC Section 1030, 18 USC Section 1038, a number of things that they violated. These are federal laws that have to do with cyber stalking, and make false information and hoaxes, right? Because what I suffered was a swatting. So in any event, I was talking about how Jide Iwarere, I had given him information about a promising, a new position that I was obtaining, great prospects. My career was going on excellently, and of course, he had envy. It reminds me of the story of Joseph, right? Joseph in the Bible. Joseph had received dreams. God had shown him dreams of what would happen to him in the future, how his family, everybody was going to bow down to him, metaphorically, because he was using symbols, right? Symbols, but the essence was that his family, he would outshine his family and they would literally bow down to him. That was what ended up happening. And his brothers were envious, his half brothers were envious, and they wanted to kill him. They ended up selling him to slavery into Egypt, where he went from being a slave in Potiphar's house. And even though he tried his best there, the wife of Potiphar had tried to seduce him, and when he refused, standing by his principles and scruples that he could not disobey God or dishonor his master, the Potiphar's wife framed him and falsely accused him of rape. He ended up in jail, in a dungeon, for even though he was an innocent man. But ultimately, it's God. God is providence. God is reigns supreme, is sovereign in history, in the universe, and in our lives, right? May God be sovereign in my life. Ultimately, Joseph went from jail and he went into the palace of Pharaoh and became the second in command in all of Egypt. He became governor of Egypt. And those siblings, those brothers, the father, they all still came to bow down to him in Egypt, because what happened, God caused there to be God caused a famine in Israel, in their land, in Canaan, where they came from, and they all had to move to Egypt to seek food. So I'm a Christian. I have good faith in God, and I've always had faith. A reason I've been doing these videos talking about American presidents is because I realize that there are new Nigerians like me in America, and it's good for the Nigerians to know, and Africans and other people who would like to know, other immigrants who would like to know, to understand America's laws, America's presidents, right? This is not legal advice. Of course, I have a law degree from George Washington University Law School, as I normally say. and of course I'm a history buff, so it's very important to know um, what's going on in the country, your host country, and know what you could likely become a victim of, right? If somebody told me that one day I'd just be sitting in my home, not committing any crime, and 40 cops would raid me in my home on false pretenses, shoot me, tase me, falsely imprison me, come with a drone, and and then they lock me up and then now accuse me of threatening to shoot somebody, something I have no idea, I never stated, I have no idea. And a judge would have issued ex parte orders. So the corrupt judges involved in this, obviously, because there have been two ex parte orders. It started from civil. Jide Iwarere got an ex parte order. Agama Shumi, the neighbor he assaulted me with on May 14th, got an ex parte peace order as well. And I've never been able to appear and say my side, So principles of natural justice have been violated, right? One of the principles of natural justice is, I like to say it in Latin, that's audi alteram partem. That's listen, let the other side be heard, right? Let the other side be heard. I have my right to be heard has been denied uh, in Montgomery County in the crooked cop judge in the in the unjust court of the crooked judge, Judge James Bonifant. Again, today is Sunday, and I think I'll do another one and talk about how God hates unjust judges. Right? God hates judges who pervert the course of justice, like Judge James Bonifant. Hates judges who collect bribes. Judge hates judges who persecute the innocent. Right? Persecute the vulnerable and the innocent. So there's a litany of verses and narrative and stories of how God hates unjust judges, unjust officials. God hates them. God promises to punish them, right? And so I'm going to do a video. I know my objective is to talk about American presidents and not for this to be a Bible study. But it's about knowledge, though. The reason why I study American presidents is and discuss American presidents is to share knowledge, right? And when I first started reading the Bible when I was a kid in Nigeria, it was not because I wanted to go to heaven or because I believed in hell. No, it was because I wanted to learn. I wanted to seek knowledge. I knew the Bible was the most widely circulated book in the world. It's the biggest best-selling book ever, right? There's a Bible everywhere in the world, and it's been selling for ages, right? So I knew it was a good idea to start early, and I joined a Bible-believing church where they teach scripture in a very analytical system, scientific way, just the way the Puritans learned it back then. By the way, we've had presidents who were very religious. Many feigned to be religious as a political stunt, right, just to win votes. But there were some, like Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln learned to read from the Bible, so he quoted the Bible often in his speeches. He uses the Bible a lot. I remember even in his Gettysburg speech, he mentions God. In his inaugural address, you hear him mentioning God. So he learned to read from, he was an autodidact, right? So he learned to read by studying the Bible. John Adams as well. Judge Adams read the Bible a lot because he was a descendant of Puritans, right? Christian Puritans. Puritans they were the ones who wanted to separate from the Church of England and from Great Britain, and they landed in Plymouth, and of course they created a strict society. Part of their daily conduct was to peruse the Bible, to master the Bible. So, so we've had presidents, and like I said, who were very into studying the Bible. Some were very religious. Some pretended to be religious. So I'll do a video talking about injustice in the Bible, how God condemns corrupt judges in the Bible who who pervert the course of justice, like Judge James Bonifant, and judges who collect bribes. So in any event, the state of Maryland has stolen 3 years of my life now. My court case was postponed to August 2026 again. So it'll be over 3 years and I haven't had a trial. Judge Bonifant and the state attorney, they've tried to coerce me to take a wrongful plea bargain, right? The charges against me should never have been filed in the first place because they had no arrest warrants. They violated my constitutional rights. The police who came to my home committed a variety of crimes. They stole my property and they've denied stealing my property. They removed me naked. I've already listed the federal laws that they violated, and so it's astonishing. I learned that the public defender's office is co-opted, right? Sells defendants out to the state attorney's office, and when you go through injustice, sometimes you get to see what other people are experiencing, and so this experience has taught me not to be too. I used to overpraise America and really criticize developing nations like the one come from, Nigeria. But this has taught me to be patient with Nigeria, that America is 250 years old. Nigeria is still young, and Nigeria and many countries in Africa are still tools of imperialism and neocolonialism, and many of the nations, the superpowers, the advanced capitalist nations, they're also in part responsible for planting incompetent and corrupt leaders. And some of our leaders, even though they're not incompetent or corrupt, uh, they are forced to navigate, dealing with bigger powers, Western powers, or other powers, communist powers, that can eliminate them if they don't play ball. So they have to navigate and maneuver, At the same time, they have to try and satisfy their constituents in trying to improve their nations. So I've learned to be more patient and understanding of what's going on in Nigeria, and even I've become sympathetic with some of our past leaders. I've come to understand, coming to see from Montgomery County, a very corrupt, not just corrupt, a very racist uh, county. How they violated the rights of a law-abiding innocent person, and it didn't matter to them. They assaulted me, almost killed me. They dehumanized me, stripped me of my human rights, my dignity, and just like barbarians. And that's because they view me as one of the police officers who assaulted me, Jeffrey Ray. He called me an animal, used racial epithets on me before an administrative judge, John Hart, who didn't say anything, who didn't say, "Hey, don't use these racist terms against this person," right? But they carried on. By the way, Montgomery County is known for its strong Ku Klux Klan presence, right? They claim that they're no longer here, but in recent times, there have been KKK recruitment flyers. KKK, that's the Ku Klux Klan, that's the extremist hate group, right? That terrorized blacks, was responsible for lynching in the South. There were lynchings in Montgomery County as well. So there are extremist hate groups, and many of them are in law enforcement. Many KKK people, many white nationalist groups, they infiltrate the law enforcement, police officers, they're police officers, right? And so many of them exist in Montgomery County. Uh, and this is something the FBI should be looking at. But unfortunately, like I said, you see a lot of people who they start as cops and they go into the FBI, right? And it's just astonishing, the amount of hate that exists in Montgomery County. So I survived a hate crime. They came like a lynch mob to get me, and they could have done worse, but God was with me, and that's the meaning of my name. God is with me. God stays with me. Olurotimi. So God was with me, and I pray God continues to be with me. I'll do another video in which I discuss, um, I'll sort of analyze uh, how God addresses and deals with unjust judges in the Bible, judges who pervert the course of justice, who take bribes, and who oppress the vulnerable. God likes to protect the vulnerable. In any event, I'm Olurotimi Osha. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.